The reception felt like a fairy tale. The expensive vanilla, the roses, the champagne. I looked at the sunset and thought, I made it. I'm finally safe. I was an idiot. All right, folks, it's the moment you've been waiting for. It's cake time. My stomach bottomed out. This was the moment I dreaded for months. I gripped Mark's hand hard. I needed to see my husband. I needed reassurance. Instead, he looked down and winked. Please, I whispered, gripping him tighter. Nice and easy. You promised. I got you, babe, he whispered back. Liar. We stepped up to the table. The air in the room went cold. Mark didn't reach for the silver knife. He didn't look at the $500 cake. He looked right at me, and he smiled. It wasn't a loving smile. It was a predator's grin. A wolf deciding where to bite. No, he wouldn't. He did. He plunged his bare fist into the middle tier, ripping out a massive chunk of dense sponge. I tried to flinch, but my heavy white dress trapped me. Wham! It wasn't a playful tap. He slammed the cake into my face with the force of a right hook. My head snapped back, my neck cracked. Everything went black. Thick, heavy frosting filled my nose. It burned my eyes for a terrifying second. I couldn't breathe. I was suffocating in sugar. The music cut out. The room went dead silent. And then, the roar. Look at her face! Mark was screaming, doubled over and gasping for air. Babe, relax, it's just sugar. You're being dramatic. He pointed at me. The crowd hesitated. Then, they started to laugh. I clawed the frosting from my eyes, stinging and blind, desperate to find someone who wasn't laughing. I looked to the front row. I looked for my mother. She was there, clutching her stomach, tears of laughter streaming down her face, pointing at her own daughter, the two people supposed to protect me, and they're laughing. That's when I knew. The man I married 10 minutes ago didn't exist. This wasn't a wedding anymore. It was a trap. I stood in the hotel bathroom an hour later, scrubbing my face with a rough towel. The water swirling down the drain wasn't white. It was pink, then red. It looked exactly like blood. That metallic, sugary smell hit me, and suddenly, I wasn't 27 anymore. I was 17. Mom, please, I begged, gripping the mahogany table until my knuckles turned white. You promised. No smashing this year. I spent an hour on my hair. My mother smiled, that tight, fake smile she saved for guests. Don't be dramatic, Lena, I promised. Now, make a wish. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. I leaned in. I closed my eyes. Slam! Her hands hit the back of my head like a sledgehammer. My face collided with the sheet cake, but the frosting wasn't the problem. There was a hard plastic happy birthday sign sticking out of the middle. It didn't bend. I felt the sharp plastic slice through the skin of my forehead. A hot, searing line of pain ripped through the sugar. When I pulled back, gasping for air, the white icing on the table was already turning crimson. I was bleeding, badly. But instead of apologizing, my mother rolled her eyes. She scoffed at the blood dripping off my nose. Oh, stop crying, you brat. You're ruining the party. I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror. Water dripping from my chin. You might be wondering, how did I end up marrying a man just like my mother? I was used to being abused, so the bare minimum felt like love. When you grow up starving for affection, crumbs taste like a feast. I ignored the red flags because they looked like normal life to me. Like 6 months ago, our apartment kitchen. I had spent 3 hours making a pot roast. I slow-cooked the beef, seasoned the green beans with garlic and bacon, just the way he liked it. Or so I thought. Mark walked in, loosened his tie, and sat down. He stared at the plate. He didn't pick up his fork. He just stared. The silence was deafening. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Green beans," he muttered, looking at me like I was stupid. "You know I hate the texture." "But you ate them last week." He stood up, slowly, deliberately. He picked up the plate, walked over to the trash can, and maintained dead eye contact. Scrape, scrape, scrape. He dumped 3 hours of my labor onto the coffee grounds. "I work 10 hours a day. Lena," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Is it too much to ask for a meal I can actually eat? Stop being so selfish." He didn't just reject the food. He made me feel guilty for cooking it. 2 weeks later, I was curled up on the couch, doubled over with endometriosis cramps. It felt like someone was twisting a knife in my gut. I let out a small whimper. Mark didn't offer a heating pad. He picked up the remote. Volume up. Volume up. He drowned out my pain with the sound of the football game. "Stop being so dramatic," he sighed, not looking away from the screen. "You're killing the vibe." I stayed. I stayed because I thought I could love the cruelty out of him. But standing in that hotel bathroom, watching the red water drain away, I finally realized the truth. He wasn't immature. He was dangerous. Back at the venue, the air was suffocating. My face was dripping with fondant. The laughter from the crowd was dying down, replaced by an awkward, buzzing murmur. People were realizing this wasn't a skit. Mark was still chuckling, wiping a smudge of icing from his expensive tuxedo. He reached out for me, opening his arms like a savior. "Ah, come here, babe," he said, loud enough for the back row to hear. "Let's get you cleaned up." My ears started ringing, high-pitched, piercing. "Don't touch me!" I shoved him, hard. He stumbled back, his dress shoes slipping on a piece of dropped cake. A gasp rippled through the room. My mother stopped laughing. "Lena!" Mark's voice dropped the sweet act instantly. His eyes went cold. "Stop being extra. You're embarrassing me." "I'm embarrassing you?" I couldn't breathe. The corset of my dress felt like it was crushing my ribs. I had to get out. I turned and ran. I left my purse. I left the gifts. I sprinted toward the exit, my heavy white dress thrashing around my legs like a deflated parachute. I burst through the double doors and into the humid city air. My fingers fumbled with my phone, slick with sweat and sugar. Uber. Confirm. 30 seconds away. Thank God for the city. I heard the doors bang open behind me. Mark stepped out onto the sidewalk. "Lena, get back here," he shouted. I froze. I turned, and I saw it. He wasn't running, he was strolling. He threw his hands up in the air, looking back at the guests who had followed him out, shrugging his shoulders. He was pantomiming confusion. Women, am I right? Crazy, emotional women. The black sedan pulled up to the curb. I didn't wait for it to stop completely. I wrenched the door open and threw myself into the back seat. "Drive!" I choked out. "Just drive!" As the car pulled away, I stared into the side mirror. Mark was standing on the curb. He wasn't chasing the car. He wasn't calling my name. The second he saw I was actually leaving, he dropped the act. He turned his back on me, walked over to his best man, and gestured for a drink. He didn't chase me. He played the victim because he didn't get his way. "You okay, miss?" The driver's voice startled me. I looked up, catching my reflection in the rearview mirror. Makeup smeared, hair matted with sugar, eyes wide with trauma. "No," I whispered, the adrenaline finally crashing, leaving me cold and shaking. "No, I don't think I am." The wedding was over, but as my phone started blowing up with text messages, I realized the war had just begun.
Hold up. If your blood is boiling just like mine right now, hit that subscribe button. You are not going to believe the audacity of the text messages Lena is about to receive, or who shows up at her door next. Let's get back to the nightmare.
Sarah's apartment was pitch black, lit only by the strobe light flashing of our screens. The phone vibrated violently on the floor. I sat with my back against the couch, knees pulled to my chest, still wearing the sticky, sugar-crusted wreckage of my wedding dress. I watched the notifications stack up. Husband, 14 missed calls. Pick up. I'm worried about your mental state. Husband, everyone is asking if you're off your meds. Husband, stop making this about you. Mom, pick up, you ungrateful brat. Mother-in-law, we need to talk about the venue deposit. He's right, I whispered, my voice trembling. The conditioning was kicking in. The gaslighting was warping my reality in real time. Maybe I am being sensitive. It was just a joke. Sarah, I ruined the day. I should go back. Sarah snatched the phone from my hand. She didn't look scared. She looked furious. Lena, stop, she snapped. Look at this text. Really? Look at it. She shoved the screen in my face. Mark had written, "My family loves me. Why can't you just get on board for once?" He isn't apologizing. He's rewriting history. Sarah grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Think about it, she said, her voice cutting through the fog. He knows your family abused you. He knows you're the black sheep. He didn't smash that cake for a laugh. He did it to score points with them. The words hit me like a slap. He saw a choice, Sarah continued, relentless. Protect his wife or bond with her abusers? He chose the bullies, Lena. The air left my lungs. He chose them. It wasn't a prank. It was a public execution of my dignity. The impact shook the framed photos on the wall. It wasn't a knock. It was a raid. I flinched, curling into a ball. Don't open it, I whimpered. Please. I'm handling this. Sarah marched to the door and ripped it open, leaving the chain lock engaged. Through the crack, I saw her, my mother-in-law. She wasn't crying. She was purple with rage. Open this door, she shrieked. Her voice echoed in the hallway. Do you have any idea what you've done? The Johnsons are asking questions. You are ruining our family image. Your son assaulted his wife, Sarah shot back, ice cold. Go away. Assault. It was a tradition. The woman tried to shove her manicured hand through the gap. Where is she? Is she crying? Good. Tell her to give me the envelope box. She doesn't deserve those cash gifts if she's going to run away like a thief. That was it. Not, is she okay? Not, I'm sorry. Give me the money. Get off my property, Sarah snarled, or I'm calling the cops and showing them the bruises on Lena's neck. The woman hesitated. The threat of police works wonders on narcissists obsessed with their reputation. She stepped back, but she leaned in for one final venomous strike. He was right about you, she screamed through the wood. He should have dumped you 2 years ago. You're a waste of time. I was trembling so hard my teeth chattered. 2 years ago? I whispered. What did she mean? She's lying. She's trying to hurt you, Sarah said quickly. But maybe I should just go back, I stammered. My brain was frantically trying to find the fawn button. If I just apologize, if I say I was hormonal? Sarah grabbed my face. Her grip was tight, grounding. No, she took a breath, delivering the words that finally shattered the glass. Lena, listen to me. A husband who teams up with your abusers isn't a partner. This isn't love. This is a hostage negotiation, and we are not paying the ransom. I looked at the phone on the floor. Bzzzt. Another text from Mark. I love you, baby. Just come home. I forgive you. I stared at the words. I forgive you. For the first time, the text didn't look like love. It looked like bait. I stopped shaking. I wiped the frosting from my cheek. I stood up. I'm not going back, I said. My voice didn't tremble. Block him. The next morning, the sun hit my face like an insult. The world was bright, chirping, and normal. My world was a smoking crater. I stepped out of Sarah's apartment building, wearing oversized sunglasses to hide my swollen eyes. I just needed coffee. black, strong enough to restart a heart. I didn't make it to the sidewalk. He was leaning against Sarah's car. Mark, he looked sickeningly perfect. Freshly showered, crisp blue polo, holding a bouquet of supermarket roses wrapped in cheap crinkly plastic. He looked like the lead in a rom-com, waiting to apologize for a silly misunderstanding. It made bile rise in my throat. "Morning on Sleepyhead," he said, pushing off the car. He flashed the smile, the nice guy smile. "I brought you these peace offering." I stopped dead. My hands clenched into fists. Ice. I had to be absolute ice. "Move, Mark." He stepped closer, invading my personal space. The smell of his cologne, the one I bought him, made me dizzy. "Babe, come on. Stop the drama. Mom is crying. You're making a scene over nothing." He reached out to touch my arm, to guide me to his car like a wayward child. "Don't." I slapped his hand away. The sound echoed off the brick wall. "You assaulted me." "Mark, you humiliated me in front of everyone I know, and you're standing here with $10 roses acting like it's a Tuesday?" His face changed. The sweet husband mask didn't just crack, it shattered. His eyes went dead flat. His jaw pulsed. Here was the fire. "God, you are exhausting," he screamed, spiking the flowers onto the dirty pavement, petals scattered like blood. "I am trying to be the bigger person here. I am trying to save us." "Save us?" I laughed. It was a cold, dead sound. "You destroyed us, and you haven't apologized once." He threw his hands up, his face turning a blotchy, ugly purple. Spittle flew from his mouth. "Why should I have to apologize because you can't take a joke?" The sentence hung in the air. The smoking gun. Something inside me unclenched. The confusion? Gone. The guilt? Vaporized. "Are you serious?" I asked. My voice was terrifyingly calm. "If I hurt you, if I made you bleed, I would be on my knees begging for forgiveness. Because that's what decent people do." I took a step forward. He actually flinched. "But you can't even pretend to be decent for 5 seconds. You're not a husband, Mark. You're a bully looking for a victim." "You can't leave me," he sneered, blocking my path, desperation leaking into his voice. "You have nothing without me." "I have my dignity," I said. "I want a divorce. Get out of my way." I walked past him. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard the sound of a man crumbling, screaming insults at my back, calling me a psycho bitch, kicking the tire of Sarah's car. Narcissistic collapse. It was ugly. It was pathetic. And it wasn't my problem anymore. 20 minutes later, I was back in the apartment, shaking from the adrenaline dump. My phone screamed, "Caller ID Jessica." Sister-in-law, I stared at it. Why? To scream at me? To defend her brother? I answered. "What do you want, Aunt Jessica?" I expected yelling. Instead, I heard laughter, a high, scratchy, cruel cackle. "You finally left?" she wheezed. "Oh my God, I owe Mom $20. I thought you were too pathetic to ever walk away." "Excuse me? Don't act all high and mighty," she snapped, the laughter dying instantly. "You're a disgusting B-word for hurting my brother. But let's be real, you were just a placeholder." My blood ran cold. A placeholder? He's been banging his ex, Vanessa, for 6 months, you idiot. Everyone knows, even I know. The room spun. Vanessa, the girl he told me was just a friend. The girl he told me I was crazy for worrying about. "He wanted to break up with you 2 years ago," Jessica continued, her voice dripping with venom. "You just wasted his time. Vanessa only dropped him last week because he wouldn't leave you. She got tired of waiting for him to grow a pair." "So," I whispered, the pieces clicking together like a revolver loading. "He stayed with me out of spite?" "He stayed because you were convenient. You cooked, you cleaned," Jessica yelled. "And now you've embarrassed him. I hope you die alone. Lena, honestly. I sat there, holding the dead phone, the cheating, the years of wasted time, the gaslighting about Vanessa. It should have broken me, but it didn't. It freed me. I wasn't the crazy wife who couldn't take a joke. I was the prisoner who just found out the warden had left the gate unlocked. I looked at Sarah. He cheated for 6 months with Vanessa. Sarah gasped, grabbing her keys. I'm going to kill him? No, I said, standing up. I felt lighter than I had in years. I felt dangerous. We're not going to kill him, Sarah. We're going to destroy him. We went to the apartment 2 days later. I brought Mike, Sarah's boyfriend, a guy built like a linebacker, just in case Mark decided to stop being a coward and start being physical. He wasn't there, of course. He made sure to be at work, leaving the battlefield empty. The apartment smelled like stale beer and cowardice. It was a mess. Pizza boxes on the counter, laundry on the floor, without me there to play maid. His life had disintegrated in 48 hours. I moved fast. I didn't cry. I didn't reminisce over the throw pillows we bought together. I threw clothes into garbage bags with the efficiency of a crime scene cleaner. Then, I opened the fridge. There it was, a stack of Tupperware containers. The 2 dinners I had prepped for the week because he refused to eat leftovers unless they were repackaged a specific way. A visual monument to my slavery. I stared at them. I remembered the hours I stood in this kitchen, feet aching, chopping vegetables he would probably complain about, terrified that the chicken might be slightly too dry. I picked up the containers. I walked to the trash can. Thud, thud, thud. I dumped them, plastic and all. The sound of them hitting the bottom of the bin was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked it. It was my mother. Mom, you are making a huge mistake. Your clock is running out. Lena, you're almost 30. No one is going to want a divorced woman with your attitude. You'll die alone. I looked at the words. A week ago, they would have crushed me. Today, they just looked like desperation. I didn't reply. I grabbed my keys, the ones with the cute little house keychain, and dropped them on the counter. Next to them, I placed a note. I wrote it in Sharpie, big, bold letters. I spoke to the landlord. I'm off the lease as of today, and since we're annulled, I'm canceling the spousal health insurance tomorrow morning. Good luck with your therapy bills. Don't contact me, or we go to court. In the U.S., taking away a man's health insurance is a bigger blow than keying his car. It was cold. It was calculated. It was perfect. I walked out the door. Mike was waiting by the car, holding my last box. You good? He asked, looking at me with concern. I pulled out my phone. I opened my contacts. Mark, block. Mom, block. Jessica, block. The silence that followed wasn't lonely. It was heavy, sure, but it was the heaviness of a shield, not a burden. Yeah, Mike, I said, breathing in the city air. It tasted like gasoline and freedom. I'm free. The air in the park was crisp, smelling of dried leaves and rain. I sat on a bench, wrapping my coat tighter around me. It was quiet, no shouting, no walking on eggshells. Just the wind. The annulment was moving through the courts. It was messy, but my lawyer, a shark Sarah found for me, was handling it. My phone pinged. It was Sarah. She sent a link with a caption, Karma. I clicked it. Someone, one of the guests, maybe a cousin, had uploaded the video of the cake smash to TikTok. It had 2.2 million views. The caption read, Groom assaults bride and laughs. She left him immediately. I scrolled through the comments. Thousands of strangers were dragging him. Look at his face. He's enjoying her pain. Psycho. If my man did that, he'd be wearing the cake. I found his LinkedIn. Doesn't he work for company name? Not a good look. Sarah told me Mark had been trying to call her, begging her to get me to take the video down. He was terrified of losing his job. He was being doxxed. He was crying about how unfair the internet was. He wanted an audience for my humiliation. Well, he got one. I put the phone away. I didn't feel happy about his ruin. I didn't feel sad either. I just felt nothing. He was a stranger to me now. I looked down at the small paper bag in my lap. I had stopped at a bakery on the way here. I pulled out a cupcake, vanilla bean with rosewater frosting, delicate, beautiful. For a long time, I thought I was stupid for staying. I thought I was weak. But reading the comments, reading stories from other women, I realized something. I was groomed to accept abuse. My mother trained me to be a punching bag. So when Mark hit me, I didn't recognize it as violence. I recognized it as home, but the training was broken now. I peeled the wrapper off the cupcake. I didn't smash it. I didn't make a mess. I took a bite. It was sweet. It was soft. And for the first time in 27 years, it tasted like peace. I lost a husband, a mother, and a family. But I found myself.
Lena definitely dodged a bullet there, but I want to hear from you. Was the sister a hero for finally telling the truth, or a villain for waiting so long? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you loved seeing Lena find her spine, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories of sweet, sweet justice. See you in the next one.